What's going on, guys? Krabby Critics here. Welcome back to week 2 of the October Horror Show. Today we're going to be reviewing Tobe Hooper's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So, Texas Chainsaw Massacre follows a group of friends after the lead character's grandfather's grave has said to have been vandalized. So, they are traveling to that location to investigate, and they come across this very crazy, very off family. One of you guys want to start?
Start.
That's a brief synopsis.
I
I think you can start, yeah.
That synopsis was brief, and my boxers are briefs, so it matches up pretty well.
It works.
Moving on. I thought the movie was actually. The movie was actually great. It was surprising, and it was freaky. Like,
Well, yeah, because you hadn't seen this movie.
I actually haven't seen it
until last night.
and
You
I
haven't
was
seen
like,
it yet?
yeah, no, I
At this point,
I
yeah.
hadn't seen it yet, and then saw it, and then so basically like I was watching it, and it was like they're making a little bit of kind of stupid mistakes, but it's like it's whatever. But I mean, the it was all right that they're making these mistakes and stuff, but at the same time, it's like it makes me kind of feel stupid. It kind of makes, what are you doing?
You're like,
I want to. Why are you like,
He's
checking out my hand?
the audience, alright?
I am, okay? You're not my audience.
Okay, continue.
Although these group of friends were pretty stupid as far as like how they died, like at least 3 of them how they died. I still thought that it got crazier and crazier and crazier and crazier. It just exponentially grew into just a crazy, horrific, like suspenseful movie. And the part of the fact that the part that actually kind of really freaked me out was the fact that the long chase scene where he's chasing the blonde girl at the end.
oh yeah, by the way, just a brief little thing. We are, obviously the movie's been out for a long time, so we are gonna be discussing the movie. So there will be spoilers here. So if you haven't seen the movie or you just don't really care, we are gonna be talking about it. So keep going with that.
Hey. Anyway, so it's like a long chase scene. It's more toward the end, but it's like kind of like the 2/3 into it. It's how long he chases her. It's because you have these movies like Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street and Halloween. It's like these supernatural kind of ways they move around. They're like hiding in the shadows, or like Michael Myers is hiding up in the ceiling. He like lowers himself down behind this guy, and I think that was
H2O.
H2O, right?
Yeah.
And then you have like Freddy Krueger. He haunts your dreams. He comes up behind you. It's like, and then you
Jason
have,
teleports.
Jason can teleport. And then this is such a crazy like real. It's fundamentally like it's real. Like it's a real person that's chasing after this chick with a chainsaw. And you see that because there's no spots where he like teleports in front of her or like anything like that. He's legit chasing after this chick for 5 minutes at least straight. And he needs like, there's a part where they get to the house and she closes the door and then he's like trying to chainsaw through the door, and then she goes upstairs and kind of discovers that the grandpa's up there and everything like that. And she goes back downstairs to run out, and he's already through the door, and then he like looks around and he sees her upstairs and starts running at her, and she jumps out. We thought it would be kind of funny though if when she jumped out he kept following her. It's because I thought of this because it's like, how long he's following her, why wouldn't he do like an air attack on her? Like why would he
Like on the ground, on the ground,
Jump out.
or like even just dive? his apron's like he's like
it does like this. It does like the shot from like up front, and he's like, and then it does a side shot, and it's like the apron's like
he digs into the ground and like comes just like he's just like running out. But he doesn't do that, unfortunately. But he just kind of hanging out the window. He's just like, and he like runs back downstairs, and he's still chasing her. Like it's crazy, and it's like, oh my goodness, like this is like a real person who has bloodlust, like needs to kill this person, and it's like, that's why this movie kind of like was super strongly like suspenseful and raw and just real. I feel like the independent movie low budgetness
Yep.
sort of this made it hold up a lot more because it's kind of like with like the Blair Witch. That's kind of how I felt because the acting, like with how low quality their actual like equipment is and how little budget they have, you have to make the acting stand out.
Yeah, and then just in general, I think that's kind of how it is. I think that's how it is a lot of movies. You don't need a big budget. You just simply don't. But
and back at the time when this was kind of new, people have been making independent movies a ton in the 70s, and it's just like they've been pulling in the money, like they've been making money, and then
and they get bigger and bigger and
yeah,
bigger. Wes Craven did
with,
big things.
yeah, with this movie it was because it's based off of the Ed Gein.
Yeah, based off Ed Gein once
Ed
again,
Gein.
actually.
Yeah, another
Once
Ed
again.
Gein movie, kind of like if I can find that word.
Yeah, because he basically when those murders happened, they found things in his house, like certain things that he was using that were made out of parts of human beings.
Yeah, like a whole like bench made out of like just.
And he
bones.
was said to have worn in some way like pieces of them, and he made stuff
Hence the name
out of that,
Leatherface,
which takes from. That's what this takes from also.
Even though Ed Gein's kill count is like 2, it's not it makes it
2
really
that they know of.
Another thing actually is the fact that they make it seem so damn real for like the opening text scroll.
Yeah.
And it's like
This had a Blair Witch Project type
Yeah.
of thing where they were playing it off as a legit,
and
as a true
it's
story.
yeah, and it actually like you can believe it. Which it's not real, but it's based off of true events that happened with Ed Gein.
Definitely.
But yeah, what did you think about the movie, Brandon?
I thought it was pretty good. I feel like I wasn't into it as much as you guys, especially with the first half, because of just they were really dumb, just like wandering
True.
into this stranger's house, and they're just like, oh, what, like, what's going on? Like, I can kind of understand like, kind of walking in, but just as far as like they walk in the door and they're like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna like go throughout this house, especially with the third guy.
Yeah.
Where he hears something, so he's like, "Quit playing, guys! Quit playing! I'm gonna walk all the way
Over to
to
the
this
stranger's house, all the way in.
Quit playing!" Like you
Toward
wanna
the
do
metal
that.
door.
Like maybe you'd have the attitude of like, are they trying to? But you're not gonna be like, you're gonna be like, "Hey, this is somebody's house." Like, hey, like, like you're gonna say something, not just "Quit playing, guys." But then, like the kills in it were so like brutal, like just so real. I do believe that it was very revolutionary for the time as far as the way the kills looked, because it straight up looked like he was killing them. Like when because like Friday the 13th, for example, it was always like it was a cut kill. Like it would just kind of cut, and like the chick has like the axe in her face, like that just cuts away, and she like comes back, and like that. Those are pretty simple, straightforward ways to do horror movies, whereas this I feel like was one of the first ones to be like straight up like no cutting, just a straight on shot, and it straight up looks like he just killed this person.
And brought back like 4 times in the UK. Like this was like banned in when it came out, and then like they tried to unban it, and then like it went back, and then like back and forth, and then finally in like '99, they're finally just like, okay, we're gonna release.
Because I mean, because of that, like even when they're just wandering the house like idiots, I definitely forgave it a little bit as far as when he just, because like the third guy, he comes in and he just like turns around and they just straight up just boom. And same with like the first guy.
And he starts having a seizure. And
the guy having a seizure.
Whoa,
that is so much attention to detail.
That is
like,
so
Because they don't even do that today.
Yeah.
They don't even do that today.
Something like that could very well happen in real life. Like
Yeah.
it's very likely that would happen.
It's just the little things and like that.
Yeah.
And it just makes it like, gruesome.
So it was pretty much with how stupid they were, where I was just like, oh my gosh, like what is, because like I feel like honestly what came into my mind was a prime example of the stereotypical people make dumb decisions in horror movies, like as far as that beginning, like once I actually got into it, like the last girl alive, like she wasn't really making dumb decisions. It was just the friends. It was like what are you doing? So that definitely kind of took me out of the movie as far as that goes. But then once it did start going, it's been a while, especially for an old movie, to make me feel what that movie made me feel. It was like the scenario was absolutely terrifying. Like it was horrific. It was uncomfortable. You felt gross.
And this was your first time seeing it, right?
Yeah, this is my first time as well. Yeah, that does kind of cap off my thoughts for it, though.
Okay.
So if you want to expound.
I would just like to say rest in peace, Tobe Hooper. I think this movie is fantastic. It's always been one of my favorite horror movies. When it comes to horror, I always my go-tos are classics. I usually like to go for older ones rather than newer ones. To me, they just in most cases they pack a bigger punch to me.
They had on all cylinders.
And just because back then they feel like they just had a lot more care with the things that they did. I think that the acting overall in this movie is fine. I think it's serviceable. I think that it is not too bad. Now, as far as you mentioned when they're going into the house, and you know, the one guy goes in there and gets killed, and the girl goes in there and she gets taken downstairs, and then the third guy goes in there. I too think that the third guy was kind of I don't really think if you were there and you heard the thing going outside and that attracted you there, my go-to thought wouldn't be my friends are in this house because that's on, so I would think that the person who owns the place has that on. So I wouldn't probably go into the house. I'm with you on that one. Also to touch up on what you said about not hearing any noise when she gets put on the hook, and just in most of the movie you don't really. It's considered one of the goriest horror films of all time, without hardly showing any blood in it, because that's what I think actually allows it to pack as big of a punch as it does even today from an early 70s movie is
those cheesy sounds.
You have it's able to pack that because everything is in your head. When you see her get put up on the hook, you don't see the hook go inside of her. You don't see that happen. You don't hear anything. You don't. It's in your head. You have to picture that happening. Yeah, exactly. Like most of the stuff in the movie is very much like it shows you a lot, but you also have to imagine a lot as well.
The thing that I think the reason why like most goriest movie, even though it's not even that gory, it's because of how realistic it looks.
Yeah, exactly.
Because like in real life, stuff like that happens. It happens and it's done. And in movies, it's so focused on it gets that tight zoom and everything, and they're just like, oh, look at this. Whereas real life, it just happens and it's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And this movie had that going for it.
Exactly. Yeah, I think this movie to me has always felt kind of like mentioned it to you briefly. It almost feels like a snuff film. It just feels like it feels so dirty and so raw and so real. It just the low budget really allows it to feel like a legit thing that's happening, and it doesn't feel fake. Everything that's there is like very practical and very real. Aside from, I guess, the prosthetics on the grandpa, I guess. I'm with you on that one as well. But yeah, no, I think this movie, even when I watch it today, I used to watch it quite a bit, but even when I watch it today, I still kind of get chills a little bit and kind of just get on edge, because it's just the idea of I feel like as the older I get too, the more it hits me a bit more, because you're kind of just watching deaths happen when you're younger in the movies, but when you're actually like older and you're able to soak it all in, I feel like you really see the situation happening. Like you and I briefly talked about her boyfriend just getting killed right in front of her, and there's nothing she can do about it because she has a hook in her back. Like it's just things like that. Like it kind of puts you in that emotional kind of stance, and it's just. This movie has that I don't give a shit attitude to it. It's just it's very much like it's not holding back. But it's not going to be like gory, like just blood everywhere.
Exactly.
But it leaves a lot to your imagination. But it also does show you a lot as well. I think Tobe Hooper did a phenomenal job doing that. I think. But yeah, I have pretty much nothing but great things to say about this movie. I've always loved it. So with that discussion out of the way, what are your guys' ratings? Do you want to go? Take
Yeah,
this
I'll
one?
start. I definitely want to give it a 9 because the reason why it's not a 10 for me is because the acting was cheesy, and well, not the acting, but like just the situation, the scenario, like, oh, let's go in this house, let's go in this house, it's like, it's not the fact that like it's just the house, it's the fact that you're walking into a random stranger's house that has skinned animals hung up everywhere, and you're just walking in to find your friends. Like, A, they might not even be there, and B, it's like, why would you walk into a stranger's house? That's just kind of like why it's not a 10.
That's like the third guy
Mm-hmm.
going in there.
Especially the third guy. But the 9 is definitely because of how real this is, and like just how this could actually, like, legit. I know it happened with that game, but I mean, it's
Not the same thing. But
not the same thing,
but
but the same thing like this could happen, and it as like is fully, it's possible. Like, it's actually possible, and it kind of gives me chills to think about the fact that this could be a family out there that's actually like doing this
probably
shit.
is,
And
you
probably
never
could,
know.
yeah, it probably is. They've probably been doing it for a while too. There's just and just how savage and like crazy, like brutal Leatherface is, and just how much bloodlust he has, and how he just will run and just not give up and just keep chasing after you. Just the mania is just like crazy. But yeah, I would definitely give it a 9. What would you give it, Brandon?
I'd give it a solid 8.
Okay.
Yeah, just the fact of the dumb decision of going to the house once more, the repetitiveness, because it didn't happen once, didn't happen twice, it happened 3 times.
Yeah.
And the third guy, like, was the dumbest out of all of them. It's like, at that point, because at that point, not only was it a little old, going into the house, he was definitely, like, there was more reasons of not to go into the house at that point, as far as what was going on, what they were seeing. I think the most just, as far as going to the house, was for the girl going in there, because she knows that her boyfriend went to the house.
There, yeah.
So she's like, where did you go? So her going in there does make the most sense.
The third guy does make no sense.
Still, the way she went about it. But yeah, the third guy, though, is straight up like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But then, as far as positives, just the feeling. I'd say that is the number one thing for this movie, is the feeling that it conveys. The fact that they did such a good job at conveying that this family has a history, and because they didn't need to build up these characters, they were already built, and they just introduced them already built, you know? And they did such a good job with that, I think. But yeah, it's solid horror.
That's the pinnacle.
What this movie, if one word, horror, is this movie. But
because there's movies that try and be that.
Yeah, that does
this is
cap off what I was saying.
This is straight horror.
I am going to give this movie. I want to give it somewhere between a 9.5 and a 10, but I think I'm just gonna stick with 9.5. I think that little things like the prosthetics on the grandpa, but I feel like you also never really know what they had to work with either.
Exactly.
They may have had
that right there
the best
could be a thing of the year and everything. So you can't be forgiving of that. Thing.
And then I think the third guy going in there, it's a little weird to me, but I think the first 2 people were always fine with me, I guess, going into the house as far as character choices go. I think I always liked the feeling of like they're constantly trapped, because you have like the hitchhiker shows up, right, and they get rid of him, and they want to keep going, and then they stop at the gas station, and those 2 guys sitting there, and they're trying to get somewhere, but then it's like they keep constantly getting stopped, and they're all like, it's all connected. The whole family is like just there, stop, and they're trying to like get that. I don't know, but it's I like that whole like trapped feeling that this movie has. The family's just like everywhere. There's just bits of them everywhere. I think with the low budget that Tobe Hooper had for this movie. I think that he did a phenomenal job with this movie. I don't really have much of an issue with it at all, other than those little things that hold it for me for being a 10. But I think this is a fantastic horror movie. 9.5 out of 10 for me. Definitely see it if you haven't watched it. If you even want to watch it after we've just spoiled the whole thing. But if you haven't, where have you been? It's fantastic. So that wraps our review for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Stick around for the end of the week. We will be reviewing Nightmare on Elm Street as our final movie for week 2. If you guys if you guys enjoyed our review, click the like button and the little bell icon. Leave a comment, subscribe, let us know in the comments what you thought. Thanks, guys. Come back for more.